we're 5 out of 7. Commissioner Kafalis, we still. Oh,
Commissioner
we've got
Stevens is,
Commissioner Stevens.
yeah, she's here.
And then Carly, we've got our town attorney, we've got operations director Gelsinger from VEP. And Mike. And well, we'll hold on for a minute or two and then.
We also have our
anyway.
assistant county manager, Mayor Lori Cadridge. Looks like she's on too.
Yeah. Somebody joined. I thought. Oh, there's Commissioner Shattuck McNally. We have 3 commissioners and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the Estes board. We're missing Mayor Pro Tem Sinek, and we're missing Trustee Brown. Does anyone have a complaint or concern if we go ahead and launch? I see no complaints, and I see the opposite of complaints. So with that being said, Interim CEO Mike Zumbaugh of Visit Estes Park, you can take the floor.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to share my screen with you so you have something to look at besides just all of our faces as I do my little talk here. Let me know when you can see that. Is that not showing up for you yet?
No, it just popped in.
Got
for
it.
me.
can see
Yeah.
it now.
Okay, surprised that it took that long. So, well, I'd like to thank everyone for taking the time to review our 2026 operating plan. We've updated the plan with several new initiatives, but the overall format is relatively similar to last year's plan. So therefore, I don't really plan on going through the plan page by page like was done last year, and rather I would point out just a few highlights. I'm sure you'll all appreciate that in lieu of time constraints here. So let's get into this. So for the value of tourism, we've updated our infographic based on the current numbers from our 2025 Dean Runyon Economic Impact of Tourism Study, which includes data through all of 2024. The most significant metric is that tourism now contributes $5,110 per resident household annually to sustain our public services, support our workforce housing and childcare solutions, those types of things. That figure previously was 3,270 that we had published a few years ago, which that was before the 6E funding was implemented. So it makes sense that it has grown such a significant amount. Other items to note are that tourists generate 82% of the town's sales tax collections annually, and approximately $511 million is pumped into our local economy through direct travel-related spending. So while the overall plan design is similar to last year, we've added an executive summary section per the request of our board, as the plan itself is so detailed. So VEP continues its evolution from just heads and beds towards more destination stewardship. We're balancing the visitor growth with community well-being and environmental sustainability. The 2026 plan integrates stewardship principles to enhance resident quality of life and also help towards developing a healthy year-round economy. Our primary focus is on responsible tourism. This aligns with VEP's stewardship plan as well as the Colorado Tourism Office's stewardship and strategic plan. And we aim to support sustainability and inclusion certifications as well as promote responsible visitation practices from our visitors. Through our targeting marketing efforts, as well as our sponsorships, we aim to drive off-peak visitation and expand our year-round appeal. And we'll be using event data to help refine our efforts towards that sustained seasonal growth. As we target new and returning visitors, we plan on using personalized, data-driven messaging using personas. Rachel, who I'm sorry she's unable to be here with us, our marketing director, she has developed these personas, and I'll list them off here. They are memory makers, front range weekenders, wild at heart explorers, winter wonder seekers, and culture curious festival goers. So these are the different types of people in general that are visiting, and we have different marketing efforts based on all of the data that we have to know what an individual is more looking for and seeking. And Rachel is also looking at adding a meeting planner persona to enhance our group sales efforts that Rebecca will be speaking of.
I'll also mention that our other two trustees showed up. We have a full complement, and our deputy town administrator and town administrator are both here.
Great. Thank you, Mayor Hall. Using our attribution software, we're able to track if potential visitors who were served up our ads actually showed up in our destination, through the various social media channels, receiving our ads, Facebook, etc. So with this data, we can then tweak our ad campaigns as necessary. And the software really helps us evaluate the return on investment of our campaigns and our marketing efforts. Our social media efforts inspire visitors to think about Estes Park as a place to visit and gives them an idea of what to expect in our community while they're visiting us. So it's all about the storytelling that we do with our marketing efforts. Our public relations efforts help drive destination awareness through familiarization tours, media requests, responses, and media interviews that are conducted by the public relations team. And this page here just highlights a few of our key marketing KPIs regarding what we're trying to reach with all of our various marketing efforts. And I will turn it over to Rebecca to cover some of the sales and partner engagement side.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. So for partner engagement, we're going to continue to strengthen those relationships with stakeholders through our tourism summit, quarterly roundtables, and various trainings that include topics like our Olive, group sales, and our international efforts. With our one-on-one meetings that we do, we will continue to educate and connect and share resources with stakeholders. Continuing to encourage stakeholders to participate in our initiatives such as the holidays, Ski Drawer, Frozen Dead Guy Days, using the Beyond program. Dana and Eric will initiate a refresh of our partner landing pages, which is expected to improve usage and engagement. With our new event sponsorship policy, we're aiming to support more community events and projects and provide marketing support that enhances the community and overall visitor experience. We recognize the value in our partnerships and will further enhance those in 2026 by collaborating with the Colorado Tourism Office and Explore NoCo on the upcoming 250, 150 celebrations. And then finally, continue our relationships with the Colorado Welcome Centers, the Vacation Land, Destination Travel Network, Estes Nonprofit Network, EVIX, the Chamber, Economic Development Workforce Council, and then, of course, our friends at Rocky Mountain National Park. We'll help support them and provide them with tourism-related resources. If you didn't think we had enough acronyms, like that last statement, I think solidifies we like our acronyms. For the sales piece, I mentioned this to our board when we first presented this plan, but this is the section that we were really able to build out more with the hiring of Chris, who is our dedicated sales manager. So we really want to focus on building, again, those relationships and partners with stakeholders that have the meeting spaces and that can host events and meetings. And then increase our visibility and engagement with meeting planners and leverage working with the CTO, Colorado Tourism Office, and Tour Colorado to host more FAMs, group FAMs, international FAMs. And then maintain a presence at key trade shows such as IPW and Go West for the international market, as well as small market meetings, Destination Colorado, and local and regional shows to support that group sales effort. And then provide opportunities, education, and training for stakeholders specifically in that travel trade industry. Update our website pages with relevant information and resources, and then create digital and print assets to use. Chris takes that out when he's traveling and doing shows, utilizing that with RFPs. And then collaborate with our marketing team on paid media campaigns that target those specific markets that are that's a good fit for Estes. And then finally, through media campaigns and incentives, we are really encouraging bookings and events during midweek and shoulder season. So with that, I will send it back to Mike for the finance piece of it.
Okay.
You don't want me to speak on.
Yeah. So finance administration is really the constant backbone of any organization. Years ago, destination marketing organizations didn't have social media options for promotion or even websites. And yes, I'm showing my age here about how long I've been in this industry, because I remember the day when there was no such thing as the internet. But they always did have financial statements, budgets, and staff. So some things may have changed, like adding in technology for efficiencies and data sources for helping them make informed decisions. But overall concept of finance administration hasn't changed much. And as I was preparing the projected budgeted revenues for our operating plan a couple of months ago, at that time, a 12-month rolling average of our lodging taxes reflected a 3.8% year-over-year increase. Today, that number still holds strong, and we're at about a 3.5% year-over-year increase, and that's lodging taxes from September through August of this year. And so therefore, I'm conservatively projecting a 2% increase in our revenues, and a line item budget will be available for review by our board next month. So I'm happy to answer any questions, and that's our operating plan in a nutshell. And happy to respond to any questions you may have.
Commissioner Shattuck McNally has her hand up.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. I wasn't sure how I'm sorry, I didn't know how we were doing the protocol. So thank you for recognizing me. I wanted to thank you all for the great work, and it's great to see some details in this plan and some tactics. But I'm wondering, destination stewardship and responsible tourism and Leave No Trace and all those associated initiatives are really important for me as an individual, but also as a commissioner, because I do think that, it's a very special, unique place, but it is a fragile ecosystem. So I see these tactics and the goals and strategies, but I'm wondering, can you, maybe I missed it, or maybe I'm not, I dove into as much as I want. Can you share what metrics, or, I know you said KPIs, but I'm not sure how KPIs measure, the impacts on the environment, or how you measure environmental responsible tourism and destination stewardship. How are you measuring the impacts, or how programs are helping mitigate impacts? I'm curious about that.
I, right off the top of my head, I don't have a specific answer for that. We're some of our KPIs, the things that we track, are reported out in our annual report. But in terms of, oh, I'm at a loss for words here. It's hard to. I'm sorry, I'm hearing echo feedback in my speakers here, so it's throwing me off for a second. Rebecca, do you have a good answer that I'm just stumbling over my thoughts here?
Yeah, so as you pointed out, it is a it's hard to track the metrics and the success of it. We really work with our partners and see their engagement. But as far as measuring success, I don't know that we've been successful at that or have a tactic to be able to do that. I know that's one thing that we really see an opportunity with Sarah Leonard, is because this is definitely more the stewardship and sustainability is stuff that she has really worked on and focused on a lot in the past. So I see opportunity with her to be able to help us figure out what those metrics are in that reporting style. Not only for us as an organization internally, but for transparency out to the community.
Thank you for that, Rebecca. This is not my wheelhouse, so I have a hard time wrapping my head around that. Yeah. Talk to me about the financial statements. I can talk to you all day about those.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Mr. Mayor, if I might continue with another question with that related to this and build on that.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. So I understand, and it is hard, but you have a lot of great partners there that are doing some great work trying, including Larimer County, to mitigate visitor usage on our properties, because we want to have a great visitor experience, of course, but also hopefully leaving things better than we found them, and also just maintaining some of these places. And I know it's hard, but I know as you all know, I'm very aware of Sarah's kind of focus, and it's coming in, the new executive director that's coming in. I do think that even if there's some changes or thoughts of even trying to say, maybe in this plan, to say you're going to look at trying to measure this to make sure you're not just saying, hey, that we're doing this, but they can show this, because I think the public and the people who live in Estes Valley I've heard from some of them that how do you measure this? How we know you're doing it? What does it look like? And maybe even making a statement that maybe you'll look at that to see, working with the new leadership, that this would be something to try to understand what you'd be looking to measure, or even maybe someone who, I carry in my car a little leave no trace tags, and you've heard me talk about this before, and everyone asked me to take their picture on the trail. I finished my 100 miles in September in Rocky, and that's my price, is you've got to, pledge to leave no trace and read this card. And I still have quite a few. I take them from some other agencies that have them on their tables. I ask if I can take 10 at a time. So, but I think that even trying to, measure something like that, just, even if you can educate or try to get folks to understand the importance of that, instead of just, talk about it. I think there'd be, even if talking, that you're going to try to figure out a way to measure it, would be something I'd like to see. Just it's not just a concept, but actually when it needs action. So that's something that I had a concern about, is even just mentioning you're going to try to look for some way to measure the impacts of trying to implement these and actually see how this is impacting. And I think also when you talk about the locals who come up, this is for someone like me that's up a lot. How do you get the locals excited about that, right? And I know there's a great article that's popped on my feed, how volunteers from the YMCA, the Rockies, and others have been cleaning up in trash with Rocky National Park this last weekend, or with the shutdown. I mean, those things like that could be measurement of, those are visitors at the YMCA, the Rockies. I don't know if they're employees or just visitors, but they went and helped pick up trash. I mean, that to me is something you could mark those activities and show even activities like that as partners who help. So just an idea. I appreciate you letting me think out loud and share my thoughts or concerns about that. Thank you.
No, yeah, absolutely. I think that's all valid. And I definitely like that idea of volunteerism. And I think we have a slide or a page in the operating plan for future planning. And I think what you were bringing up would fit appropriate in that slide or in that page to incorporate building out on that and working with Sarah Leonard to create more measurable metrics in the stewardship and sustainability realm. And I could be wrong. I don't know, Mike, you let me know. I feel like that's because we had that future planning page in there for the tourism master plan because we didn't have anything that we could, because our board hasn't voted and approved on it yet.
Right.
So it's kind of giving us that window to be able to be creative with that and work on that. And I feel like Trustee Hazelton has got something to
Itching to say
ask
something.
about.
I am. I'm
if I
like on the
can-
edge of my seat. I'm so glad you mentioned the tourism master plan. I know the board hasn't voted on it, but I think Commissioner Shattuck McNally will really enjoy seeing how much of that centers around stewardship and not just Visit Estes Park implementing stewardship changes in terms of how we communicate visiting the destination and our marketing and those kinds of things, but community focused stewardship about environmental care for our destination and maintaining balance in terms of how tourism, affects our community. So Rebecca nailed it. It's still a draft and it'll come before you in the next board meeting as well. But there are some really good things about how to, continue to highlight the Do Estes Right campaign, which has been an ongoing initiative by staff to, help people understand how to leave no trace on those principles you were mentioning. So I think there's a lot of groundwork laid for Sarah and for the team to kind of move forward in a way that feels really comprehensive after this master plan is finalized. So sorry to be so jumpy, but I was like, the tourism master plan.
No, you're perfect.
I just want to say, I just want to say if I could jump in, as really the most recent new Visit Estes Park board member, I look forward to reading that plan and getting a chance to comment. So thank you.
And if I could mention too, one thing you said, Kirby, is that it'd be coming before the board at our next board meeting. And it was decided, I think you were on an email chain, you may have missed that, about holding off on the tourism master plan so that Sarah would have an opportunity to review it and add any commentary into it so that clarity of place, the entity that we're working with of putting the plan together could incorporate her thoughts and ideas as well before it comes back to the board for review and approval. So it will be a couple meetings away.
Sounds good. I'm sure we can share that draft version with Commissioner Shattuck McNally. I mean, it's available,
Yes.
I think, in the board packet too, but yeah, thanks.
I was just gonna say it gives us opportunity for Commissioner Shattuck McNally to review it and to have her input as our newest board member
Absolutely.
before it gets voted on in the December meeting.
Yeah, it is out in the board packet, but I will make sure I email you a link directly to it so you don't have to go digging for that.
And Trustee Lancaster has his hand back up again. So
He let me go first. Thanks, Frank.
Anytime, Kirby. Yeah, I had a couple things that I wanted to put my hand down here. There we go. One of the things, I mean, there are a lot of good things in here, but there's nothing that shows the proportions and what's been spent there. At some point, it would be nice to see what is the investment in these areas. Like how much money are we spending in the area of sustainable tourism education versus promoting events, or social media marketing versus print marketing, or however, what are the magnitudes in here? Because right now it looks like they're all on an equal basis. And I know that's not true. In fact, it'd be crazy if they were. But it would be nice to see that with some financial breakdown to get an idea of, frankly, if we're putting our money where our mouth is, or how much of this, are there things that we're spending a lot more money on and other things we're just barely touching on, but including in the operating plan. That makes sense, Mike?
Yes. So would you see that as being a part of this, or going back to what was discussed at the study session last night of having the budget come after the plan, and in addition to the line item budget that we'd have, we could have an addendum also highlighting specific
Yeah,
initiatives and our expected spending on those.
yeah. And I guess really what I'm talking about is project budgeting.
Yes.
Not adopting as project budgeting, but project budgeting reporting. Because the line item thing is going to have mixes and staff and materials and all that stuff that will be interesting, and we need to adopt it that way. But I'd like to see a project budget that breaks those down into projects to get some idea of what's the magnitude that we're spending on these different things and how they compare. Because in a lot of ways, our efforts are it's a way to financially or numerically show where we're putting our efforts versus other areas.
Right.
So that's the thing I'd like to see. The other thing on the metrics, and I brought this up last year too, let's make sure we're sticking to some hard metrics and some that aren't. Some of them I still think are a little fuzzy. I mentioned that last year. We mentioned, I think in there at one point, and I said this last year about, let me pull this up here, about the 900 million paid and earned media impressions. Let's face it, that's a pretty fuzzy number. 900 million impressions, that's 3 for every man, woman, and child in the United States. I have a little bit of hard time swallowing that much. I think you can probably project it, but I would rather see your metrics be things that are a little harder and defensible than theoretical. And I'm sure theoretically you can come up with that if you crunch things the right way, but I would rather have things be a little more realistic. My final question or comment is, let me get my notes here. We talked about this before, and for my short term on the board, this came up. The operating plan is more than just a marketing document, and kind of a cheerleading of what you're going to do and for the community, and it's great, and I love the graphics are good. But statutorily, the district, the DMO, is not supposed to be doing anything that is not specifically identified in the operating plan. In fact, the quote from the statute is, the operating plan shall specifically identify the services to be provided by the district, and any departure from the operating plan can happen, but it has to be approved by the board and the governing bodies. So I just want to make sure we're not missing anything. There isn't anything that's planned or anything that maybe a smaller project or something that's not in that operating plan that we start working on or we start seeing come out in March, and we say, wait a minute, where was this in the operating plan? Because there were a couple things a couple years ago that we did or was started, and they were stopped. Give credit to the director at the time, but were not mentioned in the operating plan and weren't even close to what was in the operating plan. I just want to make sure everything's in there and the staff has looked at that and make sure there isn't anything missing that should be in there, so we don't run into that same problem of doing some kind of project that's not specifically approved in the operating plan as required by statute. And that was
hold on just a second, just a time. We're about a half hour in. I know that Commissioner Kafalis has limited time. If I'm counting right, unless my PDF is wrong, you still have 76 pages to go. Is that correct, or do you have a short version? Correct.
That was just, we only
was the whole
executive summary. We're not going through the entire plan.
Okay, good.
Doing that, I think you did enough to get us the plan. We don't need to go through it page by page.
The only thing I can speak to, Frank or Trustee Lancaster, on that was just, there's anything we want to do or anything that's going to come out of the tourism master plan, and that's why we put that future planning. I know Rachel did it as well as I did. We sat with the team. We went through everything. We went through what we wanted to do. I can say that I confidently feel good that we have in this plan everything that we plan on executing. Obviously, if something comes up, bring it to the board, but I feel good about what we are tasked to execute for 2026 based off of this plan.
Okay, that's good enough for, your word is good enough for me on that. Absolutely. And certainly if there's something that new comes up or something changes, don't hesitate to bring it back to us to take a look at it. Absolutely. We need to be quickly be able to respond and move to changes.
Yeah, and that could well be with Sarah Leonard coming on board in the master plan. There could, she could have her own thoughts, which we welcome. So,
Yep. So, Trustee Lancaster, if I may ask, we did have one page in the plan that states additional opportunities with a description of, in order to continue our mission of supporting economic vitality, Visit Estes Park may pursue additional opportunities within the statutory authority of the district that may present themselves subject to budget appropriations and board approval. Is that an okay page to have in this document then, based on what you just said?
That's a little hard for the governing bodies to, I mean, that basically covers anything. So to me, that's a little bit too broad. I mean, I understand as the catch-all, it's the other duties as assigned in a job description. But I think if we're supposed to do our fiduciary responsibility and make sure what the DMO is doing is what the elected bodies think they should be doing, then yeah, I think I'd rather see things a little more specific. Personally, I don't know how the rest of the people feel, but it definitely covers it. But you could theoretically have an operating plan that says we're going to do a lot of stuff associated with tourism, and then period. I don't think that's good enough.
So would you recommend that page be removed?
No, it's okay. It's okay. But I wouldn't count on that as a way to say, all right, now we can do the other things that we didn't, because we've got it covered here. Specifically, it's something that's significant.
Right. Yeah, definitely. A significant item, as it's stated here, subject to board approval, as well as within the authority of the district itself.
Right.
So, okay.
I'm done.
Commissioner Stevens, you have your hand up. So
I do. Actually, at first it was kind of a different conversation. As that conversation wound down at the end, it kind of ties into that. But I do think some flexibility is important. I don't know how much you sort of do any economic forecasting when you're thinking about your planning, or you know, I mean, right now we have a situation where, the government is shut down. So, I mean, the flexibility in that situations seem a little fluid right now. I think some flexibility is important, but I wonder if there's anything you took into consideration when creating the plan around, potential financial, how you would pivot if things, you know, if we have a recession, if we, kind of, do you kind of take a look at market forecasts, and do you pivot then to, like, maybe people locally will be more in, attending, more events in Estes Park versus people out of state, or how does that play into your planning?
We attempt to build in scalability especially within the marketing efforts. We can expand or decrease as necessary. Some events that we may be planning on, we're able to not invest as much in if necessary. And then we also do have our reserves that if something drastic were to happen and we needed to go to the board and say, we need to utilize our reserves for these specific projects, et cetera, that may be outside of our original budgeted intent. We do have that avenue as well.
Commissioner Kafalis.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Thanks, everyone. I had a couple of questions related to the budget. I'd like to better understand the budget process. For example, what is the timeline? When do you guys start the process? Do you do any kind of strengths, weaknesses analysis, internal and certainly externally, opportunities and challenges? So the timeline for the budget, and what opportunities are there for the community to provide feedback, input, engage with the budget process?
Absolutely. Typically, we've started the budgeting process after the operating plan is approved. So we know that, okay, this is a plan that we have to work with. Now, what are we going to do to fund the various initiatives that we're proposing? And they may have to be scaled back depending on the projected revenues for the year. Throughout the month of remainder of October and through November, we're compiling all of that data, and it goes as a line item budget to our board at our November meeting, and then which is also the public budget hearing at that time for the public to be able to comment on our budget. And then our board would approve the budget at our December board meeting.
So is the budget draft, is that made available to the public and that they have enough time to provide feedback? And
Yes.
also kind of related to Commissioner Stevens' questions, I mean, is there any kind of analysis on what's working well? What needs to, where do we need to do better? What are the opportunities? And certainly in light of our current circumstances, economic and with government shutdowns, how do you all adapt or account for that?
Yes, we do project coding within our budgeting system. So we're able to track specific events or like the trade shows, things like that we're attending, and look at the costs versus the what's realized as the number of leads for a specific trade show, etc., to be able to come up with the ROI on each specific event and trade show, etc., that we do. So during the budgeting process, it's not just take everything we did last year and dump it back in, but we're evaluating each project as it goes into the budget to say, is this something that we want to do again or not?
Okay, Mike, thank you. That's helpful.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Trustee Youngland, you're up. Still on mute.
Sorry about that. Thanks, Mayor. At the beginning of the discussion, I believe you indicated that you're looking at a 2% increase over this year's numbers for your budget. That kind of gives me some pause, in light of economic status, the government and everything. I know town, we estimated to be flat, to be conservative. And so I would like to have a little bit more discussion on, even though, you indicate you gave the numbers of lodging and et cetera, a little bit more on what your thoughts were on increasing that by 2% given the climate we're in. And also if you could speak to, shifting, is there any plan, do you quarterly, what kind of plan do you put in place to monitor the situation and be proactive in adjusting instead of reacting?
Well, as I stated, currently we're at a 3.5% year over year increase in lodging taxes. That's why I conservatively rolled it back to 2% as a budgeted projection for next year. If you feel that is too aggressive, I'm happy to roll that back and go flat compared to our past 12-month tax collection as well. Happy to do that if you wish. In terms of on a regular basis, each month as the lodging taxes are coming in, I'm looking at them to see how do we compare to our budget, and we would then scale back as necessary based on our current expenditures if things start going south regarding our lodging tax collections. We haven't experienced that. We've stayed pretty consistent to our budgeted numbers, and even we've received a little bit more than what's been budgeted, but we're prepared on a regular basis and monthly as I'm presenting our numbers to the board as to up or down. If we started going down, we would just start scaling back as necessary within events, advertising, wherever we deemed it appropriate at the time based on the need.
Okay, what is the lag time from after say for July, at what time do you get those
It is
definite
a
numbers?
2-month lag time.
Okay, so you're already, that's my concern. You're already 2 months behind. And so it just is a little concerning to me, looking at, our status currently. So I just wanted to put the bug in the ear. Thank you.
Okay, I appreciate that.
We also, Trustee Youngland, we get a lot of information from, national, regional. So we kind of have our finger on the pulse of like if things are shifting or if we see patterns changing. We usually
National.
know that a little bit ahead of time. So we can, go into certain situations cautiously knowing that and seeing other trends that's happening around regionally and nationally. So there is that. I mean, it's not 100% foolproof, but usually kind of gives us a little bit of indication of what's to come.
Town Administrator Mahalik.
Thank you, Mayor. Trustee Youngland, I just also want to note from the town standpoint, our sales tax trends don't neatly match the lodging tax trends. So that's also a rationale for the discrepancy in what the town is projected and what the Visit Estes Park is projecting. We've often put a magnifying glass on that and says, why aren't these tracking the same? And there's reasons for it, but it is worth noting that we do not see the Visit Estes Park lodging tax tracking the same as the town sales tax. So while we're pretty much flat on the year on budget, as you heard from interim CEO Zumba, they're up. So I think that is also worth noting in this conversation.
Yes, thank you. And that has been, a long history of that. So I'm glad that you did come down. I was thinking you were at 2, you were staying at 2, but you were at 3.5. So that makes me feel better on that because, historically, lodging has always outpaced everything else, which is great that we have that revenue. Thank you.
I don't see any other hands raised. Mike and Rebecca, do you have more to add?
I do not believe so, no.
Okay, in that case, somebody remind me, what is the schedule for the two boards to approve the operating plan? Town clerk or town administrator, do you know that schedule?
If the town board is not seeking any changes, we could likely get this on the October 28th town board meeting. I won't speak for the county.
Okay. Well, they'd follow us anyway, I assume. We then can move forth to the next item on the agenda, the 2026 Workforce Housing and Childcare Funding Plan draft by Manager Carly Bangs.
Carly, you might be muted if you're talking.
Thank you. I had to figure out where my screen was and where all my panel was, so thank you. All right, well, I'll be quick here. This is the 2026 funding plan. The purpose is to demonstrate how we intend to utilize the revenue received by the town in accordance with the IGA between the town of Estes Park and Larimer County. It is a required document. The town, specifically my role, works hand in hand with the Estes Park Housing Authority, mostly Scott, the executive director over there, to identify annual objectives and the distribution of funds resulting in this plan. It's worth noting that within the IGA, it does say specifically the plan is expected to be brief and broad, a broad overview of funding allocations and priorities, and need not detail each property expected to be served, nor each action expected to be taken. The town and the Estes Park Housing Authority has, I believe, gone essentially above and beyond to provide additional detail and objectives and use of funds, really to just increase transparency for both the public and the elected officials for the use of these funds. And to answer your question, Mayor Hall, we are here in the bottom of Q3 of the timeline where we're presenting the final draft here to you all. We do need to file it with the county by November 1st. That's within the IGA as well. And then the county can request changes by December 1st. We have presented a draft to both the Estes Park Housing Authority Board as well as Visit Estes Park and the town board as a report and discussion item. And then, of course, we went through public outreach, which I'll go over as well briefly. The other thing that's required within this annual funding plan is the projected revenue, as you guys have discussed already. Visit Estes Park has projected a 2% increase in revenue. That would result in, and then the 80-20 split between the two initiatives. The town of Estes Park retains 20% to address childcare while we transfer on a monthly basis 80% over to the Estes Park Housing Authority. That would result in 80% of that projection, $4,662,000 going over to the Housing Authority, with a projected revenue of $1.165 million for childcare. Again, worth noting that both Estes Park Housing Authority and the town typically project revenue a little bit more conservatively. For our programming and all that, we are looking at just a flat increase next year. We are very focused on data-driven strategy. Again, we kind of go above and beyond in the annual funding plan by really, it's almost an annual strategic plan outlining those priority objectives for housing and childcare initiatives. We are data-driven. We look at key foundational documents such as the 6E Ballot Initiative Framework that identified those priorities, as well as the Childcare and Housing Task Force report, which identified the town role in addressing those issues. Needs assessment and strategic plans, both conducted within the last couple of years. The Estes Park Housing Authority does provide a annual supply plan that we look at as well for upcoming development pipeline. And then we also look at the recipients of 6E funding from previous years and the reporting that they've demonstrated through that. Of course, community input is a huge objective that we do on an annual basis. This is the third year that we've done that, typically within the month of August. I typically work on drafting some of the objectives based on what we did the previous year and based on what we saw in the annual impact report, which you may remember as being presented in April. Then we bring all of that out to the public. We have a number of different ways that the community can be involved. We hold one-on-one meetings with key stakeholders. We also provide 2 public outreach forums. We had 18 individuals this summer attend in person, and 6 people attended a virtual meeting. And then we also have an online feedback form. The online feedback form is available for people to just fill out whether or not they attend a meeting or not. We do encourage people who attend meetings to fill out the feedback form if they don't feel comfortable making public comment during that. So sometimes those can be, those responses or comments can be duplicated. There is an exhibit within the plan that you're welcome to review that has the survey feedback. So going into 2026, we do feel as though there is somewhat of a foundation built. We feel that we were able to be reactive to some of those key priority areas that showed up in the 2024 or in the needs assessments for both housing and childcare initiatives. Going into 2026, we are pivoting and evolving some of those priorities to look at lower income workforce housing initiatives, as well as home ownership programs through new developments, as well as childcare capital and facilities planning. Within childcare, you'll note that the key objective for tuition assistance is to expand and evaluate childcare affordability by increasing eligibility to include not just low-income families, but also middle-income households and school-age children. We've recently launched the Estes Valley Child Care Fund to serve primarily middle-income families. That was launched in August, and we are onboarding families as we speak and continue to onboard and enroll families through the winter here. We have also been able to dedicate 60 funds to CCAP families who would otherwise be waitlisted since February 2024. We are noticing that the trends for funding continue to increase, and we are looking at different data points to kind of figure out what's going on and what the projection is for 2026. We've been working alongside EVIX Family Resource Center, as well as through the cost modeling that we did with the middle income program to get some good data points. But we're noticing specifically within some of the school age programs that we may need to dedicate some more funds to that. So you'll see that within the program budgets as well. One thing to note is that CCAP does cover up to school age programs. So I think we're seeing just some of that with the increased capacity and enrollment in summer programs such as Boys and Girls Club, YMCA of the Rockies, that the need for financial assistance has also increased with that. So based on some of the feedback that we had since the initial drafts, we have increased the kind of funding allocation up to $500,000. So any funds or anything that would be distributed would of course come to the town board over $50,000, but wanted to note that change since the initial draft. And that's just to cover, some of those unforeseen things, as well as just responding to the metrics that we're seeing so far this year. As far as out of school programming goes, you'll see that we are just continuing to support and expand capacity in out of school programs. Through the Child Care Stability Initiative, we see that the YMCA of the Rockies, Estes Valley Recreation and Park District, and Boys and Girls Club are all eligible to receive Child Care Stability Initiative funds, which takes place of the annual workforce subsidy. We've seen higher retention rates of staff, higher wages for staff, and again, increased capacity in all of those programs. We're already meeting and exceeding a lot of our targets for 2027. In addition to that, we are providing funds through a priority grant program, which hopefully will help reach some pilot programs or new programs or smaller programs that would help on no school days, such as the teacher development days on Mondays and school breaks where some of those other programs still aren't serving those days. So a couple different opportunities to continue to increase capacity and expand programming for those school age children. I mentioned really quickly the Child Care Stability Initiative. For the trustees, this will be redundant, but for the county commissioners, this is an evolution of the annual workforce subsidy that existed, was one of the first initiatives that we put out there, and really to help providers operate and provide livable wages for their staff. We saw great success in that. And so we took that and just kind of evolved it a little bit and made it more consistent so that those key recipients of that funding can rely on it year over year. So this going into 2026, the organizations that applied for funds and are eligible for funds were Mountaintop Childcare, YMCA of the Rockies Preschool, Park Place Preschool, YMCA of the Rockies Day Camp, which is the summer programming, Boys and Girls Club of Larimer County, which does after-school programming as well as summer programming, and then the Estes Valley Recreation and Park District that does after-school programs. So pending the approval of the annual funding plan, that stability initiative would be approved as well, and those funds would be distributed in January 2026. In addition to that, providers can always apply for childcare assistance. Home providers can apply for childcare assistance for things such as startup costs, childproofing, fencing, equipment, materials, all of that. So we do have a pathway for our home providers. We have a new license incentive available this year, and that's based on a lot of the conversations we had with EVIX Family Resource Center and some new providers that are seeing the availability of funds making childcare more lucrative as a home provider. However, once they become licensed, there is some steps they need to go through to be able to be eligible for this stability initiative, specifically getting through that Colorado Shines rating system. And so upon getting their license, they would get a $1,000 bonus to be able to support some of that work that would need to be done to be able to qualify for this stability initiative. One huge thing that came from our last conversation was in regards to family, friends, and neighbors, or licensed exempt childcare providers. We did take that and drafted some language and included that within the annual funding plan. One, we're looking at how we can include licensed exempt providers. In addition to, they've always been eligible for funding through the child care assistance application. So if they're a family friend or neighbor or licensed exempt provider, they were always welcome to apply for assistance to take a CPR course or to get equipment or supplies for for their programming that they may offer. In addition to that, we are looking at essentially creating a qualified exempt provider. So they would be a family, friend, and neighbor. They don't have to go through the full licensing expectations, but there would be essentially a checklist of things that they would have to adhere to. This checklist, something similar to that, already exists through the state licensing. Again, call it a qualified exempt provider. They have to have a certain level of training. They have to have a certain level of background checks for everyone who lives within the home, CPR course, child development course. Again, all things that we would be happy to fund and make sure there's no financial barriers to those providers becoming qualified exempt, but not just having a complete free-for-all and funding. So we'll be presenting some of that framework to you all as we move through the creation of those specific FFN programs. And that includes tuition assistance. That was a conversation that came up too. So as you can see there, we had conversations with ECCLC and BridgeCare, who are administering the Estes Valley Child Care Fund. This is a conversation happening all over the country. How are we serving FFN providers? So they were already really looking at that. I think there is a means and a way to include a qualified exempt child care provider within that program. And of course, we've been having some conversations with EVIX Family Resource Center about the administration of tuition assistance to FFN providers, which they have been doing. And so we'll be working through what that looks like as we finalize any kind of or proposal of funding agreements moving into 2026.
Is that the end of the presentation?
Not quite yet.
Oh,
I'm going
okay.
quick. I'm sorry. Facilities and capital, we have the grant still available for that. We do have rollover funds that year to year allow us to remain flexible and reactive to opportunities as they arise. Mountaintop childcare is being able to step in and retain childcare spots because we had that fund available. Again, we have grants available. We have a new childcare provider that just received some funding through phased approach to be able to move into a facility. We have childcare facility account because we are leasing a town-owned facility to a provider. That rent that we receive goes into a separate allocation for the facilities. Key part of the funding plan is the priority grants and allocating those funds. So this is a quick snapshot of what that looks like going into 2024 or 2026. Moving into workforce housing, we have one of the key strategies was to acquire and preserve homes for the workforce. Obviously, the Housing Authority hit the ground running on that, and they were able to acquire and convert short-term rentals into workforce housing units, 117 units to be exact. So checked a lot of boxes there, and now they're pivoting a little bit into more of a development focused strategy. Through 4 various capital projects in the next 5 years, they do expect to add another 137 units. Those properties are already owned by either the town of Estes Park or Larimer County or the Estes Park Housing Authority. Fish Hatchery property, 179 Stanley, and then 2 other properties owned by the Housing Authority. Workforce rental assistance and assistance programs is a huge key strategy to addressing the housing needs within our community. The Housing Authority started off with a rental assistance pilot program in 2024. About 54 households received assistance. Some minor tweaking and evolution of that program launched a full program here in May of 2025. And we'll continue to do that in 2026. 2026, they also expect to include home ownership programs through a down payment assistance program. Staffing capacity, we are removing that as a priority going into 2026. It was an initial priority when we looked at the ballot initiative framework. However, they have been staffed up. They added a real estate development director as well as a housing program director. Manager. Those 2 positions are fully funded by 6E funds in order to be responsive to the work they're doing because of 6E funds. They're staffed up and they're doing well, so we don't really need to keep that as a priority. If we need to, we'll bring it back on if there's something that we feel like is missing, but rather than keeping it on there, we just decided to go ahead and pull that. Final summary. We're shifting, like I said, we have that foundation built and we're kind of shifting from expanding availability in housing to really targeting different assistance programs and new construction and home ownership rather than rental. Childcare, we're seeing a shift from really stabilizing the workforce and affordability of childcare to now increasing capacity through capital and facility growth. And then continue to build upon the progress that we've made. We've had a really great first couple of years in increasing the availability and affordability. The metrics are demonstrating that. And so we're hoping to just kind of build off of that strong foundation. Once the plan is approved, we will present it in more of a graphic, user-friendly format, which is the picture there, available to the public, because again, that was one of the comments we've received from public and elected officials, is making sure we're getting that information out to the public in a more accessible way. So sped through it, happy to go back through any questions that y'all may have. Really appreciate the feedback that we've received up to this point.
I would agree with you. There's been a lot of evolution, stability, and definition in the 18 months that I've been involved. Certainly part of that is my own education, catching up with some of the history that a lot of folks have. But it really looks to me like it's come a long ways in this almost 2 years, and great work.
There's a lot of information. I've received that from a lot of the public, as well as the trustees, and that it's difficult to keep up with. And so we definitely want to be as transparent and forward with the public and you all as possible. Ideally having a dashboard and some more public facing information. So we'll continue to work on that.
Commissioner Shattuck McNally, you have your hand up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I hope this is appropriate time for maybe a couple of questions, if that's all right.
Yep.
Thank you, sir. And first, let me just say, Carly, that was a lot of information very quickly. Obviously, thank you for the work, and a lot of, I agree with and echo the mayor's comments, considering where we started from and what you purported today. It's certainly a lot of structure and a lot of reports, and very excited to see that. And thank you again for your, I know this passion and tireless efforts and for a long time and from you, and I appreciate your continued obvious passion and work here and your expertise. My question is, a few times, at least twice, I heard you say the reporting or the metrics or what you were reporting, you believe was gone above and beyond what really needs to be done. And I'm curious about that, because I think, especially with something new and folks trying to understand, especially the folks collecting the lodging tax, and trying to understand what this means and where it's going and how this is helping and is it working. So two-part question for my curiosity. I appreciate you making those comments, but I'm wondering, what is it you think you're going, what is the specifically, maybe one specific thing that you think you're going above and beyond on? And do you feel that maybe some things aren't needed in the future, or are you just kind of pointing out that you guys, the report, the information's more than what you really think, or maybe what we've asked for? I'm just curious about that. Thank you.
Thank you. I think the specific comment about above and beyond is above and beyond what's the minimum requirement is for our reporting and for our plan. I think that there's room for more, because I think that, as I mentioned, even having a dashboard and having more information available to the public about what we're doing, and being able to say, this has been a great success, or hey, here was a pilot program, or here was something that we just, we're not pursuing that anymore. I think there's always room for more transparent or more communication and more availability of information. Another part of that is, as far as exceeding our targets and our goals. A lot of our targets and our goals were based on the data and information that we got from the needs assessments. And so especially with the out of school programming and some of the growth that we were hoping to see with childcare. So those data points were brought from the needs assessment and the strategic plan. We continue to, we'll need to update those as our demographics change and all of that. But we are seeing, based on the targets that we pulled from those documents, we're seeing, that we're on track with what we should be responsive to.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate your answer, and thank you for clarifying that. And I do agree with you extremely about the dashboard and getting public transparency and showing the numbers and being accountable to the public, but also just to all the stakeholders and the folks collecting. So I appreciate those comments. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Of course. And I would say that the Housing Authority definitely has a similar goal, and they're pivoting and, looking to address that proactively as well.
Marie, you're up.
Hi, everybody. Hey, Carly, I just wanted to make a comment, and you know this, I've talked to you about it before. I really do appreciate you putting in the unlicensed qualified. Is that what it's called? The unlicensed qualified. I think it's really, 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 and I've said this before, really important that any taxpayer money at least is going to go to an organization that's doing background checks. It's just so important to me, and have the CPR training. And I don't think we had that in there before. And I know you've worked on getting those qualifications in there, and I really do appreciate that, because 100%, I think that's important. I don't feel comfortable with tax money going to organizations that give money to people who don't have those background checks and CPR certifications. So I just want to make sure that everybody knows that how important I think that is. That's all.
Any
And
other?
that's
Go ahead, Carly.
And that's specifically for the childcare providers, correct? Okay.
Yes, correct.
Other questions or comments? Any other general observations? We have no other items on the agenda other than the questions and comments from this esteemed group. Well, at this point, it looks like we'll move forward to the appropriate next steps for both of these items, for the workforce and child care funding, and for the VEP operations plan. We'll let the appropriate administrators and clerks work on that, and we'll look forward to seeing that stuff in front of the respective boards and move forward. Thanks to all for attending. We had real good attendance, good questions, robust conversation. All very good, and this meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, everyone.